The show begins with a high school student named Sieun. He was the smartest student in his class and had a solitary personality. Every day, he spent most of his time studying at school. He had no friends in his school, which made his classmates resent him because he was far more intelligent than them. Since he had no friends, no one respected him at school, yet he always achieved great success. On the other hand, a classmate named Young Ben was widely respected. When Sieun won first place in a math competition, no one clapped for him. However, when Young Ben received his award for placing third, the entire class applauded him. Young Ben was a troublemaker in their class, but he was also a quiet and intelligent person. Many students in their class feared him, as he often bullied them with his gang. They would intimidate and even extort money from other students. Later on, Young Ben tried to threaten Sieun while Sieun was focused on his studies. Young Ben was jealous of Sieun because Sieun had defeated him in the math competition. Even though Sieun was an introvert with no friends, he was never afraid of Young Ben and his gang. He didn't even flinch when Young Ben threatened him. Meanwhile, the school's basketball team entered the classroom searching for a student named Suho. They wanted revenge on Suho for beating up one of their teammates. Even though the entire team tried to gang up on him, using metal rods as weapons, Suho managed to defeat them all. This was because he was a former MMA fighter. When Sieun arrived home, he gave his father the certificate proving his victory. His father was delighted, but Sieun himself wasn't happy. He felt lonely even while being with his family. Sieun lived with his father because his parents were divorced and he had chosen to stay with him. However, Sieun never received love or warmth from his parents. His father was always too busy with work, and his mother, a teacher, worked at a school far away. Sieun rarely saw her and could only watch videos of her every day. Because of his troubled family situation, Sieun became a withdrawn and silent person. The next morning, as usual, Sieun arrived at school early. He saw Suho sleeping in the classroom. That day, they had a physical education class, but Sieun's gym jacket was missing. He suspected that Young Ben had stolen it, so he was forced to wear his school uniform during the PE class. Sieun excelled in all subjects, except for physical education. He was particularly weak in that class. After the gym class ended, Sieun confronted Young Ben and his gang, asking them to leave Young Ben alone if he was truly strong. Young Ben and his gang felt humiliated and grabbed Sieun by the collar, threatening him. However, a teacher suddenly arrived and separated them. Young Ben and his gang quickly pretended they were just joking around. Another new student in their class, named Seok, had recently transferred from an elite private school in their neighborhood. Seok never admitted that he came from a wealthy family because he didn't want others to take advantage of him. Later, Sieun entered the classroom and told Young Ben to move away from his desk. Young Ben was furious at Sieun's words, and Sieun pulled out a pen to defend himself in case Young Ben tried to attack him. Suddenly, Suho told Young Ben and his gang to be quiet. He was also angry because they had disturbed his sleep. That night, as usual, Young Ben and his gang gathered in a club, drinking alcohol mixed with drugs. They did this every day. Young Ben and his gang met a drug dealer who was also his cousin. Young Ben asked him what would happen if fentanyl was applied to human skin. The drug dealer explained that it would cause confusion, dizziness, blurred vision, nausea, and vomiting. The next day, the students had an exam. As always, Sieun had thoroughly prepared for it. Young Ben arrived late to class and approached Seok, asking him to come along because his home tutor wanted to meet him. After that, we see Seok being taken to a small storage room inside the school. Young Ben then ordered him to apply fentanyl to Sieun's neck during the exam. Seok agreed to do it because he was terrified of Young Ben. As the students were handed their exam papers, Seok, standing behind Sieun, touched his neck and told him there was a bug on it. At first, Sieun was irritated, but after the teacher called on him, he focused back on his exam. However, while taking the test, his vision suddenly became blurry, and he struggled to concentrate. He left the classroom to go to the restroom, and when he returned, he realized that fentanyl had been applied to his neck. Suddenly, he slapped himself hard across the face. The entire class was shocked and turned to look at him. Sieun kept slapping himself to regain his focus for the test. After the exam ended, the students began reviewing their answers. Sieun realized he had gotten one question wrong, which made him extremely frustrated. In a fit of rage, he stood up, pulled out a pen, and mercilessly attacked Young Ben. He even stabbed Young Ben's closest friend with the pen. Young Ben fell off his chair, blood streaming from his face. That day, no one dared to stop Seon from attacking the once feared young Ben. As Seon was about to strike young Ben's face again, Suho suddenly intervened and threw him aside. He realized things had gone too far. Seon, still furious, grabbed a chair to continue fighting, but Suho managed to block his attack. At that moment, a teacher entered the classroom. After the incident, young Ben was rushed to the hospital for treatment. Meanwhile, Seon was taken by a teacher to apologize to young Ben's parents. However, Ben's mother kept scolding him as she was furious. Seon then told her that her son had applied fentanyl to him during the exam. At first, young Ben denied any involvement, but Seon presented proof, showing that young Ben had hidden the drugs in his bag. When a box of fentanyl was discovered inside young Ben's bag, his mother was horrified. In the end, the school decided to transfer young Ben to another institution. They also vowed to monitor drug use among their students more closely to protect the school's reputation. When Seon returned home that evening, he didn't mention anything about what had happened at school. His father suspected he had been in a fight, but he didn't care much and assumed it was just normal teenage behavior. The next day, two of young Ben's friends angrily approached Seon and demanded that he meet them after school. However, Seon, showing no fear, simply told them to set a time. They couldn't even wait for class to end, their faces filled with rage. After school, young Ben's friends followed Seon to the restroom. Seon locked the door behind them so no one could see what was happening inside. What they didn't know was that Seon had brought his favorite weapon, the pen. As he walked toward them, they were paralyzed with fear, remembering the time when Seon had lost control before. Their bodies froze as they recalled that terrifying incident. But Seon had no intention of attacking them. He simply told them to stay out of his business. After Seon left the restroom, all of his classmates praised him for defeating young Ben and his gang. However, Seon was furious with them because suddenly they all wanted to befriend him. But just as quickly as they had accepted him, they distanced themselves again, treating him as if he didn't exist. After that, young Ben was visited by his cousin Supdae, who warned him not to do anything reckless. However, young Ben asked Supdae to beat up Seon, even promising him money in return. That night, as Seon was on his way home, he saw Soo working during his vacation. Aside from being a student, Soo also worked part-time as a food delivery worker during school breaks. Every day after school, he would go to work to earn some money for his survival. Since losing his parents, he had been living with his grandmother. However, that night, instead of going home after work, he chose to sleep at school because going home late would make him arrive late to school the next morning. When Seon noticed this and learned about Soo's situation, he decided not to wake him up the next morning. He admired Soo's dedication, and for the first time, he had a good night's sleep before the other students arrived. From that point on, Seon and Suho grew closer, though Seon still struggled to open up to other students. Meanwhile, young Ben met with Supdae to discuss the task he had given him the previous day. Supdae, being a member of a debt collection agency that loaned money to people and kept hold of their valuables, declined to take on the job. After school, Bamsuk attempted to apologize to Seon for what he had done. He even offered to accompany Seon to another school, but Seon ignored him. Suddenly, Seon was stopped again, this time by young Ben and Supdae's gang, who forcibly took him away. Seeing this, Bamsuk immediately informed Suho. At first, Suho was indifferent, as he didn't see it as his problem and was about to go to work. However, when Bamsuk offered to pay him double his salary, Suho changed his mind and quickly went looking for Seon. Meanwhile, Seon, now in an isolated location, felt threatened by Supdae and his gang. However, being someone who always analyzed situations and calculated his actions, he managed to fight back. Even after getting rid of some of his attackers, Seon was ambushed again. This time, young Ben seized the opportunity to take revenge, ruthlessly beating Seon and even attempting to break his arms so he would never return to school. Suddenly, Suho arrived just in time to save Seon. Using his skills, he managed to overpower young Ben and his friends. However, the fight was not over yet. Supdae challenged Suho to a one-on-one fight against his men. Meanwhile, young Ben and his friends, seeing Seon alone, decided to attack him again. The situation escalated even further when young Ben attempted to hit Seon with a glass bottle. Suho was unable to intervene as he was still engaged in battle with Supdae. Fortunately, Bamsuk arrived just in time to save Seon. Eventually, Supdae backed off and left, deciding to go after Ian and his other associates. Young Ben stood alone, realizing that he had once again failed. After that incident, Seon and the others grew closer. Suho later brought Bamsuk and Seon to the restaurant where he worked and told them they had to help him this time since they were the reason he was late for work. That evening, they spent time together at the restaurant, even ordering dinner. However, as usual, Seon still found it difficult to socialize. Meanwhile, Supdae's boss, a man named Jalisu, was furious about the incident. He refused to assign Supdae any more tasks and instead punished him by hitting him with a wooden stick. Later, Supdae met with young Ben and asked him to bring Seon to him. Around the same time, Seon encountered a woman from Supdae's gang named Yangi, who was shoplifting at a supermarket. Seon ignored her, pretending not to notice what she was doing. After leaving the supermarket with the umbrella he had bought, Seon was suddenly approached by young Yi, who quickly befriended him. She then asked him to accompany her to a restaurant. Having no other choice, Seon accepted her request. Young Yi then tried to win Seon over, telling him that she had started to like him a lot. She even asked for his phone number. Meanwhile, Gilsoo was busy collecting debts from high school students who had recently gotten their hands on some money. One of the students, unable to repay his debt, handed Gilsoo his mother's credit card as collateral. However, Gilsoo still threatened to kill both him and his parents if the full amount was not paid within 3 days. The next day, young Ben, while gathering his belongings from the classroom, asked Seon for a private conversation. It turned out that young Ben wanted Seon to testify in court and declare that he was not responsible for the fentanyl drug incident. Since young Ben wanted to avoid being sent to a juvenile correctional facility, he also told Seon that he was the only one who supported his parents. Seon, feeling guilty about the trouble he had caused young Ben, agreed to help him. He then set off for court with his friends. However, young Ben led them to an underground parking lot instead of the courthouse. Seon and his friends grew suspicious of him since he was clearly not taking them to court. It became evident that young Ben had lied and set a trap for them, leading them straight into Gilsoo and his gang. Gilsoo then demanded $15,000 from them, claiming he needed it to cover the medical expenses of Supdae, whose arm had been broken. However, Suho refused to take responsibility for the injury, knowing that Gilsoo was the one who had actually broken Supdae's arm and was now falsely blaming Suho. Gilsoo was simply using this situation to extort money from Suho and his friends. He gave them 3 days to come up with the money, warning that if they failed, he would lend them the money himself, only to trap them in debt. This showed just how manipulative and ruthless Gilsoo was in dealing with the students. He even threatened to kill them if they refused his demands. From that point on, Seon and his friends had no choice but to follow Gilsoo and his gang everywhere, submitting to their authority. Desperate for a solution, Seon called young Yi to ask for information about the mess he had gotten himself into, hoping she could provide something useful. Eventually, they agreed to meet at a nearby restaurant. During their meeting, young Yi revealed the truth about Gilsoo. He was the type of person who would do anything for money, even committing murder for the right price. She advised Seon to pay whatever Gilsoo demanded if he wanted to avoid danger. She also warned him that Gilsoo had strong connections with many criminals, making it nearly impossible to escape his grasp. Meanwhile, Bamsuk, in an attempt to raise money, stole his father's expensive watch and planned to sell it to cover the debt imposed by Gilsoo. Finally, the 3-day deadline set by Gilsoo arrived. The group met in a secluded room where Bamsuk successfully handed over the full $15,000 after selling his father's watch. However, he lied to his friends, telling them that his father had willingly given him the money. Seon and Suho were furious, finding it hard to believe that Bamsuk's father would just hand over such a large amount of money to pay off his son's debt. Despite gathering the full amount, they refused to give it to Gilsoo for free. Instead, they decided to call the police. Seon then shared the critical information he had obtained from young Yi the night before. Apparently, Gilsoo was running an illegal gambling den specifically targeting underage students. Anyone who registered at the gambling site would receive an initial bonus of $50 deposited into their account, enticing them to keep playing and staying for long periods. Young Yi explained that this gambling system was a scam. Initially, players would win frequently and receive large rewards, but once they became addicted, the man running the site would start manipulating the system to ensure they kept losing, gradually draining all their money. Meanwhile, the bonus money awarded to new players actually went straight into the pockets of Gil-soo and his gang. When players eventually ran out of money, Gil-soo's men would approach them, offering loans so they could continue gambling. This vicious cycle ensured that every participant accumulated massive debts they could never fully repay, forcing them to keep giving whatever money or valuable possessions they had to Gil-soo, including cars, gold bars, and other expensive items. This was how Gil-soo exploited high school students, trapping them in debt and profiting from their financial ruin. Young-yi also told Seon that Gil-soo had stored all his valuable items, including drugs, in a secure metal box. Because of this, Seon decided to call the police and lead them to the location. With all the evidence stored in the box, the police arrested Gil-soo. After school that day, Gil-soo and his gang were waiting for Seon and his friends. Suho told them that he would meet Gil-soo alone. His plan was to ask Gil-soo to take him to his office so they could discuss the gambling den. Once inside, Seon would discreetly call the police and give them the location. At first, Gil-soo was shocked that Suho knew about his gambling operations. Suho then told him that he had learned everything from young Ben's cousin, Supdae. Left with no other choice, Gil-soo led Suho to his office. Before they left, Young-yi told Gil-soo that she would stay at the school to wait for Bamsuk and Seon. Later, Young-yi met with Seon to give him the address of Gil-soo's office, unaware that Suho had already followed Gil-soo there to get the same information. Meanwhile, Bamsuk was extremely worried about Suho and decided to follow him in a taxi. Seon let him go ahead, wanting to confirm if Young-yi had given him the correct address. At the same time, Supdae started questioning Young-yi to gather more information about Seon and anything else important. Young-yi admitted that she was sick of Gil-soo and had already planned to report him to the police. She said she could no longer live under his pressure. Meanwhile, Suho arrived at Gil-soo's office and immediately sent the location to Seon. It turned out to be the same address Young-yi had given him. Once inside, Suho handed over his phone at Gil-soo's request, as Gil-soo had been suspicious of him from the start. When Suho refused to hand it over, he was suddenly struck on the head with a heavy metal object, knocking him to the ground. Gil-soo soon realized Suho's plan to call the police. In a panic, he gathered all his valuables and fled the scene. Shortly after, Bamsuk arrived at the office and saw Gil-soo trying to escape. Unaware of what had just happened, Bamsuk attempted to give Gil-soo the money he had collected, thinking it was still necessary. However, Gil-soo ignored him and dragged Bamsuk along as he left. Meanwhile, Seon ran toward Gil-soo's office, but when he arrived with the police, the place was empty. Since they didn't have an arrest warrant, the police stopped their investigation. Frustrated, Seon climbed over the building's walls and broke into the office. There, he was shocked to find blood on the floor and feared that it belonged to Suho. When he tried calling Suho's phone, there was no answer. Seon was even more distressed when he realized that Gil-soo had taken all the valuables from the metal box, including the money and drugs. Meanwhile, Supdae found himself in danger. Gil-soo had discovered that Supdae and Young-yi had been conspiring against him and helping Seon. Gil-soo then threatened Young-yi, saying that if they didn't meet him at a location called Man-dong, he would sell her younger brother, Sunshine. Supdae immediately decided to meet Gil-soo and handed Young-yi his bank card so she could use it to hide in a hotel. However, Young-yi didn't want Supdae to go alone. She asked Seon to download an app that would allow them to track each other's locations in real time. That way, Seon could follow Supdae using Young-yi's location. Meanwhile, Gil-soo and his gang were waiting for Supdae and Young-yi. It turned out they had also captured Bamsuk and Suho, holding them as hostages. Seon rushed toward Young-yi's location. However, when Gil-soo realized that Young-yi had betrayed him, he challenged Supdae to a fight. Since Supdae's arm was still injured, he struggled to fight back. Gil-soo attacked him relentlessly. Young-yi tried to help Supdae but was quickly restrained by Gil-soo's gang. Gil-soo then prepared to kill Suho and Bamsuk, but at the last moment, Supdae forced himself up and launched an attack. Despite his injuries and exhaustion, Supdae continued to fight. However, Gil-soo had the upper hand, wielding a knife to strike back. Suddenly, Young-yi helped Supdae by striking Gil-soo on the head. However, since she wasn't as strong as Gil-soo, she couldn't fight him when he got back up. Luckily, the sound of police sirens filled the air, and Gil-soo and his gang immediately fled the scene. Sieun then arrived and told Gil-soo to surrender, as he was now surrounded by the police. However, Gil-soo and his men soon realized that Sieun had only used a phone to play the sound of police sirens to trick them. In reality, no police had arrived yet. This led to an intense fight between Gil-soo's gang and Sieun's group. Meanwhile, Supdae and Young Yi tried to escape, but were stopped when actual police officers suddenly appeared on the scene. It turned out that Sieun had only used the fake siren sound as a distraction, but now the real police had arrived. One of the officers attempted to arrest Gil-soo and his gang, while another chased after Supdae and Young Yi. Unfortunately, Gil-soo managed to escape from the police. Sieun immediately ran after him, pursuing Gil-soo through the streets until he finally caught sight of him. However, when the two engaged in a fight, it became clear that Sieun was no match for Gil-soo, as he was still just a high school student. Sieun's attempt to fight back quickly weakened. Just then, Suho arrived and saved his friend. A new fight broke out between Suho and Gil-soo. Since Suho was an MMA fighter, he had no trouble overpowering Gil-soo. When Suho finally defeated Gil-soo, the police were able to arrest him, the man responsible for leading many students into crime and gambling. Meanwhile, Supdae voluntarily turned himself in to the police. Before being taken away, he told Young Yi and her younger brother Sunshine to leave the area and stay safe. Afterward, Gil-soo's criminal case was handed over to a lawyer who happened to be the assistant of Bam-suk's father. The lawyer stated that he wouldn't discuss the case with Sieun's parents, but would report everything to Bam-suk's father. Since Bam-suk came from a highly respected and wealthy family, anyone who had harmed him would face severe punishment. The lawyer then told Bam-suk that he had permission to hit Gil-soo and that he shouldn't worry about the fact that they were in a police station. However, Bam-suk didn't want to attack Gil-soo. Gil-soo taunted him, calling him the weakest among his friends. He claimed that Suho and Sieun never even considered Bam-suk their friend. Meanwhile, Sieun left the police station and saw Young Yi waiting outside. She wanted to apologize to him and Suho. Later, they went to the hospital to visit Suho. Sieun then informed Suho that Bam-suk's father wanted to keep the case confidential. It seemed like Bam-suk's father wanted full control over the situation. However, despite the fact that Sieun and his friends were the ones who caught Gil-soo, they didn't really care about receiving credit. The only thing that mattered to Sieun was that Gil-soo and his gang were behind bars. At the same time, Bam-suk's father was covering Suho's hospital bills. It turned out that Bam-suk's father, a highly respected politician named Jihoon, was a powerful figure. Young Yi, still feeling guilty, followed Sieun to the hospital to continue apologizing to Suho. She then rested her head on Sieun's shoulder. At that moment, she told him that they were now dating. When Sieun returned home, he once again felt lonely. No one asked where he had been. Feeling isolated, he decided to go back to the hospital, bringing Suho his favorite food. Suho was surprised because this was the first time he saw Sieun, who had always been distant, now showing such care. Meanwhile, at Bam-suk's house, his father scolded him for getting involved with the police. The old man was furious because the situation could damage his well-established reputation. As punishment, he brutally beat Bam-suk with a golf club. At school, Sieun and his classmates were celebrated for their heroic actions in taking down Gil-soo and his gang. Since that day, Sieun and his friends had grown even closer. They vowed never to abandon each other. Sieun then told Bam-suk that Young Yi wanted to be their friend and would also be living at Suho's house. Suho then decided to personally ask Young Yi if she really wanted to stay with them. Bam-suk, however, felt left out. With Young Yi's presence, he felt like he was being pushed away from the group. His frustration grew when he realized that Suho had followed Young Yi on Instagram but hadn't followed him back. Even though Suho had only met Young Yi one night, he still chose to connect with her over Bam-suk. Since Young Yi joined their group, Suho started talking to her more than to Bam-suk. Bam-suk felt invisible, as if Young Yi was treating him like he didn't exist. Because of this, he stopped enjoying spending time with them. Even when they went to a karaoke bar, Bam-suk wasn't happy. He left the room to buy drinks for himself, trying to cope with his feelings. That night, he also confronted some kids he used to fight with at his previous school. However, he didn't escalate the situation, choosing to keep it a secret instead. When he returned to the karaoke room, he snapped at Young Yi after seeing her pick up his phone when someone called him. Bam-suk had always disliked being treated this way, especially when he realized that even Suho had distanced himself. At that moment, a group of bully students entered their karaoke room. They were surprised by Seon's quiet demeanor and decided to leave, promising to call Bam-suk again later. Seon didn't know they were troublemakers because Bam-suk hadn't told him anything about them. The next day, Bam-suk was sleeping in class when he was woken up by the noise of his classmates. Frustrated, he told them to be quiet, but they just laughed at him. Bam-suk felt humiliated again and angrily confronted them. He grew even angrier when they claimed that he had become arrogant ever since joining Seon and Suho's group. Seon and Suho tried to calm him down, but Bam-suk lashed out at Suho, telling him to take his hands off him. After that incident, Bam-suk's mental state became increasingly unstable. On top of that, the bully students who had been calling him every day started making him even more anxious. He started skipping school for several days and avoided sharing his struggles with anyone. Concerned about his well-being, Seon and Suho decided to visit Bam-suk's house to check on him. They were shocked by the luxurious home he lived in, finally realizing that the rumors about his wealthy parents were true. Bam-suk then revealed that he wasn't actually their biological son. He had been adopted after his father became a politician. He also explained why he had been absent from school. After encountering the bullies who used to bully him at his previous school, they started calling him constantly, demanding that he meet them immediately. This left him emotionally drained, bringing back painful memories of the time when he was physically abused by them every day. This bullying was one of the main reasons he had transferred to a new school. Upon hearing this, Suho suggested that Bam-suk call the bullies so they could confront them and force them to apologize. Later, Seon, Suho, and Bam-suk went to a bar to meet the people who had made Bam-suk's life miserable. Gathering his courage, Bam-suk entered their room and demanded that they apologize to him. However, the bullies laughed at him when they heard his request, denying that they had ever wronged him. They pretended to have had a good relationship with Bam-suk, but when Suho threatened them, they finally admitted to their actions and apologized, even showing remorse. Then suddenly, Bam-suk slapped one of them. The group became furious, but Bam-suk lost control and grabbed a microphone, attempting to hit them again. Seeing this, Suho immediately intervened, reminding him that they had come for an apology, not revenge. The bullies were shocked by Bam-suk's sudden aggression. Seon then warned them to stop calling Bam-suk from that day on. Afterward, Bam-suk and Suho got into a heated argument because Suho had stopped him from retaliating against his former bullies. Bam-suk accused Suho of always acting like he was superior to him, treating him like an inferior. He also felt that Suho never truly saw him as a friend, only as someone to control. Suho denied this, saying that they had always been good friends. He reminded Bam-suk of all the times he had helped him. However, he became furious when Bam-suk told him that he could just pay him back for everything he had done for him. Seon then stepped in to defuse the situation and allowed Bam-suk to leave. Throughout his time with Seon, Bam-suk had never once been angry at him. He had always respected him. But in the end, he decided to go home alone. However, the bully group continued calling his phone, trying to track him down. On his way home, Bam-suk encountered Jung-chan and Taeyeon. At the same time, the bullies spotted him from above. Fortunately, Jung-chan and his group chose to target the bullies instead of Bam-suk. Since they were from an elite high school, they saw an opportunity to exploit them. The bullies were terrified of Jung-chan's gang and had no choice but to hand over their money. Bam-suk stood by and watched. Then, suddenly, he attacked the leader of the bully group before fleeing the scene. Jung-chan and Taeyeon were amused to see Bam-suk finally losing control. Bam-suk unleashed all his pent-up anger on the bullies who had tormented him. He resented them for making his life miserable, for insulting his father, and for isolating him from his friends. After this incident, Bam-suk joined Jung-chan's gang and began spending his nights drinking with them at clubs. His new friends adored him, especially because he was willing to pay for everything. For the first time, Bam-suk felt like he had found people who respected him. He even followed all of them on Instagram. Bam-suk believed that he had finally found true friends, so he decided to unfollow Suho on Instagram. The next day, Bam-suk arrived late to school because he had spent the entire night drinking. Seon tried to talk to him, but Bam-suk ignored him and instead chose to engage with Jung-chan's gang. Jung-chan's group thanked Bam-suk for covering the cost of their drinks and hotel stays with the women they had been with. It was clear that Bam-suk still had the money he had gotten from selling his father's watch. Seon noticed a significant change in Bamsuk's behavior and confronted him about it. At first, Bamsuk denied that anything was wrong, but eventually he admitted that he was angry at Suho. He felt that Suho always looked down on him and never treated him like a real friend. After that, Bamsuk fully immersed himself in his new social circle, frequently going to clubs with them. One night, they met up with young Ben and some other students from their school. Young Ben was thrilled to see Bamsuk there and introduced him to his female friends, telling them that Bamsuk was the son of a powerful politician. Upon hearing this, the girls immediately started flirting with Bamsuk. Young Ben also introduced him to a skilled fighter from their school named Wei-yong. The group then started talking about Suho, expressing their deep resentment toward him. They were frustrated that Suho always acted like he was superior to everyone else and constantly belittled others. Young Ben, in particular, was eager to take revenge on Suho. Meanwhile, Suho continued to help Seon by teaching him how to work as a delivery driver. Seon, on the other hand, was worried about Bamsuk. He suspected that Jungchan's gang was only using Bamsuk because they had discovered his wealthy background. Seon was certain that they only befriended him for his money. However, Suho had a different perspective. He believed that Bamsuk was the one using the group for his own benefit. It seemed like Bamsuk and Jungchan's gang had become genuinely close, each gaining something from the relationship. The gang did whatever Bamsuk asked of them, and they even wanted to make him a well-known figure at school. Day by day, Bamsuk grew closer to Jungchan's gang. He felt genuinely accepted and respected by his new friends. He even changed his seat in class to sit closer to Jungchan and Taehan. Seon, however, was deeply worried about Bamsuk. He believed that Bamsuk wasn't a troublemaker at heart. He was only doing all of this because he felt lonely. Seon then confronted Jungchan's group, demanding that they stay away from Bamsuk and stop taking money from him. However, the gang ignored him, saying that Bamsuk willingly gave them whatever they wanted. During lunch, as students lined up for their meals, Jungchan's group suddenly barged in, cutting ahead of everyone in line. Suho was furious and warned Jungchan and his gang to follow the proper order. However, Bamsuk stood up to Suho and refused to listen to him. This angered Suho even more, and in response, he forcefully slammed Bamsuk to the ground. Seon quickly intervened and told Suho to let it go. Feeling humiliated and powerless, Bamsuk stormed off. After that, he approached Jungchan and asked him to find someone he could pay to beat up Suho. Jungchan then suggested bringing in a fellow schoolmate, young Ben's friend, Wei-yong. They looked up videos of Wei-yong online and saw that he was indeed an exceptional fighter. Rumors even suggested that he would soon join the UFC. Eventually, Bamsuk was introduced to Wei-yong. Bamsuk offered him $1,000 if he could severely beat up Suho. He even wanted the fight to take place on Saturday, Suho's birthday. Wei-yong accepted the offer and left. Taehan then told a story about how Wei-yong had previously defeated Suho in a fight during a competition. Jungchan was convinced that this time Wei-yong would win again. They then came up with a plan to weaken Suho before the fight. As part of their scheme, they tampered with the brakes on Suho's motorcycle, the one he used for work. Just as they had planned, Suho struggled to control his bike and ultimately, he ended up in an accident. After the accident, Suho had to walk with a limp because his leg was injured. He believed that Bamsuk was responsible, but he didn't say anything to Seon. It was Saturday, which was also Suho's birthday. Seon and Young Yi had prepared everything to surprise him. Meanwhile, Bamsuk tried calling Suho to ask him to meet up, but Suho didn't answer. Bamsuk then sent messages to Young Yi, saying that he wanted to meet her to give Suho a birthday gift. He told her not to tell anyone because he wanted it to be a surprise. Young Yi didn't inform Seon or Suho that she was going to meet Bamsuk. At first, Bamsuk was kind to her, but suddenly he smirked. His plan had worked. He had planned to take Young Yi hostage to force Suho to meet him. Seon and Suho were waiting for Young Yi, but she still hadn't returned. Seon accidentally saw Suho's phone and noticed messages from Bamsuk. In them, Bamsuk had sent an address for Suho to meet him and stated that he had taken Young Yi hostage. Realizing that Young Yi was in danger, Seon replied to Bamsuk's message, saying he would come, then deleted the chat. He told Suho that he was going out, but didn't reveal anything about the situation. Sieun arrived at Bamsuk's location alone, holding a wrench. Everyone was surprised to see Sieun instead of Suho. When Sieun saw Young Yi, he urged her to run away quickly. Sieun then fought Yin-chan and his gang using the wrench. Meanwhile, Young Yi managed to call the police. Young Ben was thrilled to see Sieun because he wanted revenge, but once again, he was unable to defeat him. Sieun then picked up a crowbar, ready to take on all of them, but suddenly, Weyong appeared and attacked him. Despite having the crowbar, Sieun was unable to fight back against Weyong. Seeing this, Young Ben attempted to use the moment to attack Sieun. However, Bamsuk intervened, telling him that Sieun had nothing to do with their issues. Bamsuk insisted that he held no grudges against Sieun. Young Ben didn't care and said it wasn't just about Suho, it was personal. Eventually, Sieun, who was already weakened, was relentlessly beaten by Young Ben and his gang. Bamsuk found it too painful to watch and walked away. Weyong then told Bamsuk to reschedule his meeting with Suho. He also demanded the payment, claiming he had already defeated one person. However, Bamsuk had never asked him to attack Sieun. Suddenly, police sirens were heard, and everyone fled the scene except for Sieun, who lay injured on the ground. Suho, who had fallen asleep at home, realized that his friends had never returned to his birthday party. Meanwhile, Sieun was taken to an ambulance by the police. Young Yi told the officers everything that had happened. Sieun woke up and told the police that he had been alone and that it was just an accident. He also asked Young Yi not to tell Suho anything about the incident. Later, Sieun called Bamsuk to warn him to stop what he was doing. Because of the injuries he sustained, Sieun had to be hospitalized. While lying in the hospital, he remembered a childhood argument between his parents. He had learned that his father never wanted him in his life, which had made him resent his father ever since. Even now, though they lived together, Sieun still harbored those feelings. Sieun didn't tell his father the truth about what had happened that night. Instead, he claimed he had fallen down the stairs. However, his father knew he had been in a fight and scolded him for being reckless. Sieun then confronted his father, asking him since when he had ever cared about him. Meanwhile, at home, Bamsuk was furious with himself. Because of him, Sieun had suffered a brutal beating from Young Ben's group. He isolated himself in his room and refused to go to school. His father, determined to keep Bamsuk away from trouble, assigned someone to watch over him and planned to transfer him to a school in the Philippines. Suho continued attending school as usual, completely unaware of what had happened. However, he sensed that something was wrong. Sieun had disappeared and hadn't been coming to school. He also noticed that Bamsuk was no longer attending. Suho tried calling Sieun, but Sieun didn't answer. When he finally picked up, he told Suho that he wasn't attending school because of family issues. Suho then asked Young Yi why Sieun hadn't returned to his birthday party, but she avoided the question and only apologized. Still feeling uneasy, Suho decided to visit Sieun's house, but no one was there. As he walked home, he wondered what was really going on. Eventually, with no other option, Suho asked Jung-chan and Taehan about Bamsuk's whereabouts. They told him they didn't know, as they had been unable to contact him. Suho then mentioned that he needed Bamsuk to give him money to fix his motorcycle, which had been damaged by him. Jung-chan's group was shocked to learn that Suho knew Bamsuk was responsible and asked him how he had found out. Meanwhile, Jung-chan's group was discussing Seon's absence from school, knowing it was because of what had happened that night. Suho overheard their conversation. Furious, he beat them up and demanded they tell him what had happened to Seon that night. Unable to take the pain any longer, Jung-chan finally confessed everything. After learning the truth, Suho went to Young Yi and asked where Seon was being hospitalized. She told him that Seon would return home that night. Suho then went to Seon's house. He was relieved to see him but didn't tell him that he knew the truth. Seon hid his injured hand from Suho, who acted as if he didn't notice. Instead, he reminded Seon that they had an exam the next day and encouraged him to come to school. Meanwhile, Bamsuk's father was furious about what his son had done. Ashamed of him, he ordered Bamsuk never to publicly acknowledge him as his father. Having had enough, Bamsuk decided to leave home that night. His father's assistant tried to stop him, but he ignored him and took a taxi. The assistant quickly took a picture of the taxi's license plate to track him down. While in the taxi, Bamsuk saw multiple missed calls from his friends. He also received messages from Suho. At that moment, Suho was with young Ben, punishing him and demanding to know where Bamsuk was. Young Ben insisted that he didn't know. Suddenly, Suho received a phone call from Bamsuk, who asked him to meet at a gym. Bamsuk also called Wei-yong, telling him to prepare for a fight with Suho. When Suho arrived at the gym, he saw Jung-chan, Taehan, Bamsuk, and the others waiting. Suho had actually come to apologize to Bamsuk. He told him that if he was angry, he should take it out on him, not on innocent people. However, Bamsuk rejected his apology. Frustrated, Suho got mad. At that moment, Wei-yong challenged Suho to a fight in the boxing ring. Suho was surprised to see Wei-yong, as they had fought before in a competition where Suho had won. Suho accepted the challenge but asked for a minute to warm up. Instead, he used that time to beat up everyone in the room. Once he was done warming up, the fight began. Wei-yong recorded the match, swearing revenge for his past defeat. At first, the two were evenly matched, as both had strong fighting skills. However, Wei-yong knew that Suho's leg was still injured from the motorcycle accident. He focused his attacks on Suho's left side, making it difficult for him to fight. Despite the pain, Suho managed to knock Wei-yong down with a powerful strike. However, Taehan cheated by pulling Suho's leg, causing him to lose focus. Wei-yong took advantage of the distraction and landed a hard kick to Suho's head, knocking him to the ground. Bamsuk and the others seized the moment and began beating Suho relentlessly. Jung-chan and Taehan, who had been resenting Suho for a long time, joined Bamsuk in beating him up relentlessly. Bamsuk's father's assistant and lawyer arrived to take Bamsuk home, forcing him to leave. Suddenly, panic spread among the group when they realized that Suho wasn't breathing. They quickly fled the scene, except for Yinchan and Taehan, who were stopped by Bamsuk's lawyer. Bamsuk's lawyer demanded that they testify in front of the police, ensuring that the situation would be handled in a way that protected Bamsuk. Bamsuk deeply regretted his actions and broke down in tears, thinking that Suho had died. People started searching for Suho after realizing they hadn't heard from him since that night. Seon and Young Yi suspected that Suho might have taken revenge on Young-chan's group, but they couldn't find him anywhere. Eventually, Bamsuk's lawyer stepped in to control the situation. He wanted to keep the incident a secret, so he instructed Jung-chan, Taehan, and Wei-yong to stick to the false narrative he had created. According to the fabricated story, they had all been exercising together when Suho suddenly passed out while taking a break. To eliminate any evidence, they deleted the video Wei-yong had recorded and removed the CCTV footage. Bamsuk's lawyer also pretended to be Suho and messaged Sieun, saying that Suho was fine and busy working out. Meanwhile, Bamsuk received yet another punishment from his father. Furious and ashamed, his father threatened to kill him once he finished school in the Philippines and returned home. However, Bamsuk didn't care about his father's threats. He was more worried about Suho. The next day, school exams were being held as usual. Seon arrived early, attending school for the first time since the incident. However, he was distracted and anxious because he hadn't heard anything about Suho. Suho didn't attend school that day, and Seon couldn't focus on his exam. As a result, he answered many questions incorrectly, but for the first time he didn't care. He was more worried about Suho than the test. After finishing his exam, Seon received news from Young Yi. She told him that Suho was hospitalized and in critical condition, having fallen into a coma. It turned out that Suho hadn't died. The panic that night had led Jung-chan's group to assume he was dead, but he had only slipped into a coma and was admitted to the hospital for treatment. Upon hearing this, Seon immediately left school and rushed to the hospital. When he arrived, he found only Suho's grandmother in the room. She was devastated, sitting beside Suho, who had yet to regain consciousness. Seeing his best friend lying weakly in the hospital bed, Seon couldn't hold back his tears. Meanwhile, Bamsuk had locked himself in his room. His lawyer came to inform him that Suho wasn't dead but in a coma. There was still hope for his survival. However, the lawyer warned Bamsuk that if the truth got out, Suho could be in danger. He was ordered to keep the incident a secret, as exposing it would damage his father's political reputation. The next day, Seon went to Jisung High School, where Young Ben had transferred. He was looking for Young Ben. As soon as Young Ben arrived in his classroom, Seon stormed in and attacked him, repeatedly slamming his head against the desk. In his rage, Seon stabbed Young Ben's shoulder with a pen, demanding to know what had happened that night and whether Bamsuk was the one behind it. Young Ben claimed he didn't know, as he wasn't there. His fingers had been broken after his fight with Suho that night, so he had been unable to participate in the attack. Before Seon left to find Bamsuk, young Ben told him that he only knew bits and pieces of what had happened after watching a video that Wei-yong had sent. Seon watched the video and finally learned the full truth about that night. Even though young Ben wasn't directly involved, Seon still beat him up before leaving to find Wei-yong. When Seon found Wei-yong, he attacked him with an iron rod. Unfortunately, since Wei-yong was a trained fighter, he anticipated Seon's movements and defended himself. The two got into a brutal fight. Wei-yong looked down on Seon, mocking him for having no real fighting skills. However, Seon refused to back down. He recalled what Suho had taught him about fighting, but he realized that those lessons couldn't be learned overnight. Wei-yong repeatedly overpowered Seon, but using his intelligence, Seon turned the fight around. He began using Wei-yong's own strength against him. At one point, Seon managed to dodge Wei-yong's attack, causing him to accidentally punch a barbell instead, injuring his hand. Seon seized the opportunity and used the barbell to strike Wei-yong's foot. Wei-yong tried to excuse his actions that night, but Seon refused to forgive him. Instead, he struck Wei-yong's foot again, breaking it. Meanwhile, Bamsuk and his father were on their way to his school to officially announce his transfer to a school abroad. However, Young Yi arrived just in time to stop them. She demanded that Bamsuk take responsibility for what he had done to Suho. Instead of apologizing, Bamsuk coldly told Young Yi that everything happened because she had entered his and his friends' lives. He and his friends used to be happy and close to each other, but after Young Yi entered their lives, Bamsuk felt excluded from the group. At Bamsuk's school, the teachers were waiting for him and his father because they knew who Bamsuk's father was. Meanwhile, Bamsuk was taking an examination, while his father pretended to inquire about the student who had been severely injured. The teachers told him that a student had collapsed while exercising at the gym and was seriously hurt. Bamsuk's father was relieved to hear this because no one knew that his son was responsible for it. While everyone was taking their exams, Seon entered the school carrying a fire extinguisher. His uniform was covered in blood, shocking both his classmates and teacher. Suddenly, Seon attacked Taehan with the fire extinguisher. Bamsuk watched him without a hint of fear. Jungchan tried to help Taehan, but Seon struck him in the head with the fire extinguisher, knocking him unconscious. Seon then continued to attack Taehan. After taking revenge on the two, he approached Bamsuk. Bamsuk, feeling helpless and regretful for everything he had done, told Seon to beat him up if that would make him feel better. However, Seon couldn't bring himself to attack Bamsuk because, deep down, he still considered him a friend. Instead, they both broke down in tears. Seon left Bamsuk on the floor without throwing a single punch at him. The entire school was terrified of Seon. Some teachers tried to stop him, but instead he took out his anger on the windows, smashing them in frustration. He hated how the school had chosen to keep the incident a secret and had done nothing to help Suho, who was still in a coma. After the incident, Seon went straight to the hospital to visit Suho. While sitting beside him, he imagined Suho waking up, telling him that he had overreacted, and then both of them apologizing for failing to protect each other. Eventually, Bamsuk was transferred to a school in the Philippines, while Suho remained in a coma. Young Yi decided to distance herself from both Seon and Suho, realizing that her presence had ruined their friendship. At first, Seon was going to be sent to a youth detention center for what he had done. However, after Bamsuk's father saw the video showing how Suho had fallen into a coma, he decided not to press any charges. Instead, he made sure that no school in Seoul would accept Seon. However, one high school still agreed to take him, Jiang High School. Seon was finally transferred there, accompanied by both his father and mother. His father told him that what had happened before wasn't entirely his fault. Jiang High School was a low-ranked school, mostly filled with troublemakers. The school didn't even forbid students from having tattoos. Seon introduced himself to the class and took his seat while some of his new classmates approached him. One student, who seemed to be the leader of a gang, tried to provoke him. Seon, however, chose to ignore him. Annoyed by this, the student became angry, but when Seon stared back at him coldly, he felt intimidated and backed down. Here is the end of the Season 1. And the drama has an upcoming Season 2, so subscribe the channel, tap the bell icon to get the updates, and don't forget to like the video. It would help the video to reach more audience. Thanks for watching.